Hello friends, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be about what I learned in therapy in 2025. And I started working with like the best therapist ever. She's not like a licensed therapist, she's an integrative trauma practitioner coach. I don't know exactly the difference between all of it, but she has helped me so much and I wanted to share what I learned. I would say the most important thing that she did for me in 2025, amongst other people, but it was really cool to incorporate this in my therapy, was growing my spirituality and my relationship with God. Being in recovery for about 3.5 years, I was introduced to God, but I feel like for my first 2 years of sobriety, it was kind of like performative. Like I was like memorizing prayers and just being like, yeah, I prayed about it, or yeah, trust God. But I actually didn't really fully know what that even looked like, which I don't necessarily think that's like bad. I think that's the whole part of the experience and walking with God is you get to learn your own relationship with him, her, whatever, universe, higher power, creator, whatever you want to call it, nature. I'm not going to be like shoving the Bible down your throat because that's not really like where I'm at with my spirituality journey. And so a couple things that I brought to her attention, because of course I was like testing her of like, oh, well, if there's a God, what about this? What about this? And like one of the main things that she clocked me with is like, who am I to question our creator or something bigger as if I'm owed answers, like I rule the world? Like who am I to like question God? The answer is no one. I'm no one to ask for answers of why anything in my life happens or anything that happens in anyone else's life or in the world, because obviously there's a lot that happens in the world that in my opinion I don't agree with, and I don't think it should be the way that it is. But it's like I'm just a little drop in the ocean, so I needed to like humble myself real quick. But like for example, I'd be like, okay, God, everyone says God is so good, God is so good, like, but there's a lot of bad. So if God created this world and he's all good, how does that make sense? And what she told me is we wouldn't know good without bad and bad without good. And it's just a part of our human experience to suffer and have pain. But like what God does for us in that pain and suffering is, one, he doesn't abandon us. He gives us his unconditional love and faith. He guides us. And I believe personally, like with my experience, when I pray to God, like this pain is too much, I'm suffering too hard, or like if I'm really anxious about something, like I beg God to like put peace on my heart, to give me the strength to walk through what I'm going through. I don't know like what the woo-woo shit is, but I swear like sometimes I do feel a sense of just like I can take a deep breath and it like falls at my waistband. And to kind of bounce around really quick, this might be all over the place. I was gonna write on paper like bullet points because I thought it would help me stay on track, and just that makes more sense. And I just couldn't sit down and do it, and I didn't want to look through all my notes. I take pages of notes in my therapy and I was just too lazy to, and I was like, I'm gonna just go off the rip and see how this goes. But the thing with prayer, God's not a magic genie. So it's like when I pray, I'm not praying to Santa Claus. I'm not saying I want this, 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 and this. Give it to me, thank you. And also with like no effort. Like it's very selfish to be like, I want all these things and then not turn around and like go help another person or do something that I'm contributing to the world. It's just take. And I've really had to shift, not only shift, but acknowledge that that was like my mindset around life. And I don't think it's totally like my fault. I think that we're kind of in a rat race type of world where we want the new car, the bigger house, this, more. Also being an addict, I always just want more. But talking in prayer like I'm talking to a friend, like the comfortability of like talking to a friend that I trust and that I love, and I know I can say anything and they'll love me anyway. And also just not talking to this big bad condemning God, because that's not who God is, and talking to kind of like a parent, I guess, that's like looking after me and I trust them, and being less afraid of the concept of like God and a higher power. It allows me to be more open and honest and like vulnerable. Just having a conversation like you would with a friend, or even like I always think of a parent, how you're like, I want candy for dinner, and they're like, no. And they don't say no because they hate you and they think you suck. They're just saying no because they're like, bitch, your stomach will hurt. Well, maybe they don't say it like that, but they know, they can see the bigger picture. They can see that if I give this to you right now, your stomach will hurt, you probably won't eat dinner, and it will just be a whole situation that you probably will regret. So I'm gonna tell you no, love you, but no, have your dinner first. And a no also doesn't mean like you're never gonna get what you're asking for, right? Maybe the no just means wait for after dinner to have the candy. I like breaking things down into like simple analogies. It makes me understand it a lot better. But to kind of go back into the condemning God, right? So I think that God loves us unconditionally. Like we weren't meant to be perfect. If we were perfect, then we wouldn't need to rely on God. So God expects us to fall short. Expects that, or maybe not expects, wants us, I guess, to like seek him when we fall short, to go to him for guidance and strength and love. And I think I need to bring myself down to simplify it, knowing that like the facts are that God loves me. And if I'm in pain and suffering right now, it's not because I'm not worthy or I need to be punished. Like there's a bigger picture that I just will not ever be able to see. And that's like the epitome of faith, just walking through even though you're like this kind of sucks, but I have to know and believe that these things are happening for my greater good. So kind of piggybacking off of that is like, we talked a lot about perfectionism in my therapy sessions. I didn't realize that I was a perfectionist. But it's like, I don't want to do things unless I know that it's like gonna go my certain way and have that control. I'll just give up before I even enter the race, because that way there's no opportunity to be disappointed. Allegedly, there's still different ways to be disappointed. So that kind of theory doesn't even make sense. And it's all just a sense of wanting control. So really giving up control to God has been something that I've been learning, because it's like 24/7. I'll pray and do my stuff in the morning, and then I'll turn my back, go outside, and be living in a bunch of fear. And we talk a lot about fear because I'm just riddled with it and I find it annoying, so we always work on it. I have like so many different thoughts. I really should have written this down. I get frustrated with the way that I am. Having ADHD or having fear, and it's like, okay, God, like, why don't you just change me? Because this fear makes me selfish. It makes me look inward. If I was supposed to be different, I would be. God, if I was supposed to be somewhere in life, I would be. So how can I accept who I am and where I am right now, knowing that it's just a part of the bigger freaking plan? I also worked a lot in therapy about my acne. This was like such a loaded situation. So I am an esthetician, so the fact that I had acne all last year really bruised my ego, because I was like, I study this, I know the internal, I know the external. How the freak do I still have acne? Not only that, I was just struggling in my business as well, because there was a part of me that was just like fighting it, because I would work with acne clients. That was like my thing that I focused on, because I thought that was me being purposeful, and I just didn't find joy in it anymore. It really stressed me out because it was like triggering for me, and something that I had to work through in therapy is trusting that I would be okay if I pivoted my business just to focus on facials and like gave up this part of me that I held onto so deeply, because I thought my worth lied in my results. If my guests have clear skin, how much money I make. I was also afraid to do this pivot, because to me that proves that I failed, that I suck at this, and that making this change I would lose out on money, I would lose out on revenue, because like, this is my business, so how am I supposed to make money moving forward if I'm completely changing my business? Not completely changing my business, I was still doing facials before, but there was a lot of fear there, and going against what I thought I had to do, which was prove that I was a good esthetician, prove that I can be successful. To prove to who? God already says that I'm good enough and I'm valuable. No matter what's in my bank account, no matter how good I am at my job, no matter how successful I am, he doesn't look at us and says, you're not a doctor, you fucking loser. Everyone has their own purpose in life and their skills and their brains that God gave them. And again, it just comes back to like the humility. And my therapist always says, you come to the, wait, does she say this? No, she doesn't say this. It's okay. I read somewhere else that they said you come into this world naked and you leave naked. You have nothing when you come to this world and you leave with nothing. So to be so obsessed with like material external things, it just doesn't make sense. You're not bringing that Louis Vuitton bag to you in the afterlife. Maybe you are, I don't know. Maybe there's a Louis Vuitton bag in the afterlife, but I don't know. Who's to know? And something that she put in perspective to me is like, oh, say someone who makes a bunch of money, is really successful in their career, has a bunch of achievements, and they robbed an old lady the night before. You're still gonna say that they're better than you because you're basing it off of your achievements? I'm like, well, no, it's not really nice to rob old ladies. Or it's just like the money thing. How much money you have as someone in America versus a different country. It's just so, is the word subjective or objective? I don't know, but one of those. What stays constant is like your heart and your soul and like who you are. And that's what God's looking at. Another thing that I was already working on in recovery, but really had to seal the deal, is like, I'm not a victim. Like, we would work through things through my childhood and honor myself when I was a victim at that time, but it's like, I'm not a victim today. And everything that's happened to me truly has built me to be who I am today, which is someone who has more strength, has more empathy, compassion for other people. I can relate and connect with people like based off of not only my pain and other people's pains, but like joy too. Being able to see like I've had shitty relationships, for example, and then look at the relationships that I have today and be like, these are so beautiful. And I wouldn't know that they're so beautiful without the relationships that I went through to kind of teach me, hey, this isn't really the vibe. So a lot of it is just the basis of getting back to that self-love, right? But not in the way that I scale it based off of external things. I have felt the most confident when I'm truly believing what God says about me and what I believe. Well, it's hard for me to believe this, but what is the truth? And the truth is, God says, never to fear. I will always take care of you. Everything you need will be provided for you. And you just don't know what that's supposed to look like. Because in my head, I'm like, well, I need $1 million to survive. And even just in my rock bottom of addiction, why would I need that? On paper, who needs to be addicted to drugs, right? It's just not really beneficial. But if I hadn't have gone through that hardship, I wouldn't be where I am today. Honestly, I say rock bottom, but I could probably go lower, and I just never want to find out how much lower I can get. I don't know how I would have met God. People say like you find God in churches and like that. Bro, I found God dying on the floor in freaking Vegas because I put a little bit too much in my system. So just letting go of the idea of knowing what I need. I don't. God knows what I need, and I can tell God my wants, and God wants to give me my wants. Like, I'm just really jumping all over the place with this. Another thing that came to my mind is other people give me grace, God gives me grace, so who am I to not extend that grace to other people? I want to be forgiven. I've done bad things in my past, and I want to forgive myself. God forgives me, and usually when I make amends, other people forgive me too. So it's like, who am I to hold on to resentment and grudges and not extend the grace that I was given? But another key point in therapy, that doesn't mean that like people can walk all over me or to be a people pleaser, because to be a people pleaser is you're not putting God as your number one, you're putting other people, and it's going back to I need your approval. Like being codependent, where it's like, I need you to think this of me, I need to change what you're thinking to reassure that I'm good enough. And it's just like, that is so exhausting. Oh my gosh, I still kind of am, but like recovering codependent, where it's like I'm so not okay with who I am that I just need your approval. And it's like, even when I get it sometimes, if I'm like, oh, I'm feeling ugly, I just want my boyfriend to tell me I look pretty, and he's like, oh, you look pretty, babe, and I'm like, you're fucking lying. So it's like, even when I get the approval, it's like not good enough, because it's just, you can't get that external validation to heal that internal part of you. I think even going back to my parents, where it's like, oh, my mom, this and that, looking at them, knowing that they tried their best. And it's like, even with parents, we have such a high standard of like parents, and they do have a responsibility, in my opinion, to provide for us in certain aspects. But like where they fall short, I don't need to dwell on it and say what happened in my childhood is because I'm not good enough. And I believed that for a really long time, or I'm just not capable of getting people to love me in the way that I would try. It just always blew up in my face. And so I found it really freeing to know that no matter who likes me, doesn't like me, it just doesn't replace the constant love that God has. And I think right now, going back to like shifting in the business, and I'm trying to lean in more into content creation, like bringing in the trust, 24/7 trust. I feel like the past 3 sessions, every single time, I'm like, this is my problem, da 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 da. And she's like, oh, the problem is that you want control, you don't trust God, and you're kind of being a brat because you're not getting what you want. I really like her because she claps back. If I'm being kind of a pick-me, she's like, cut it out, which is perfect for me because I don't do well. If people enable me, give me an inch, I'll take a freaking mile. When you just cut that shit, cut it at the source, I have no other option to change, right? If you're not gonna enable it. And I don't wanna sit in my own shit anymore. And so I like that she pushes me to keep growing, keep having trust in God, walking through my fears and walking this path that feels kind of like I'm walking with 2 left feet, especially in a world that I feel so conditioned to have certain goals, to have certain things, to be a certain way. The moral of the story is really just allowing me to be me. Oh, this is what I meant to say before I got sidetracked. She always says, who are you at the end of the day if you take everything away? If you take away being a mother, you take away your job, and not take it away, you're stripped and you're humbled, just taking off the mask. Who are you under there? Who are you at your core? I don't know why that just really stuck to me to think about, really wanting to work on the condition of my heart and my soul and stop being my biggest hater. Because by me saying I suck, I'm ugly, and this and that, I'm questioning God's work. I'm saying you're wrong, homie. And it's like, he don't make mistakes like that. Another thing she always says is coming back to who you are before the world got to you. Who is the person that God designed you to be that you either avoided or just didn't know who you were supposed to be because you weren't connected with God or something higher than you, and it was just very small survival mode. And I'm starting to learn that I don't need to live that way anymore. Like, I don't need to be in survival mode all the time. I don't need to worry about everything, because worrying about everything actually doesn't get anything done. It gets less done because then I shrink down and I get small and I panic and I can't function. So obviously very faith-based, but it's been really helpful to me because when I don't have therapy, I have God to carry me through my therapy appointments. I don't feel like I'm alone, and she helps me see the good and the light, because we wouldn't know the light without the darkness. Just learning to stop being so intimidated by darkness and feeling like I need to change it, because again, it just comes back to I don't know the grand scheme of things. For my life, for your life, for the world, I have no idea. But what I do know, what I can focus on is the way that I show up for myself and others in a kind and loving way. How can I fill my own cup up and then pour into someone else's cup? We hold on to these outcomes so hard. And what I'm just learning in therapy is just let go. Because when I let go, God has done so much in my life that I actually couldn't have planned myself. Couldn't have planned it better. For my sobriety example, didn't want to get sober, met a random person who introduced me to sober people, and then I got sober, and I didn't want any of that. It did for me what I couldn't do for myself. And I think that's just such a beautiful thing that I need to keep reminding myself of. But these practices, therapy helps, but I need to practice what she teaches me in therapy and what we talk about and when we unpack. I need to practice these principles in all of my affairs. Just go to therapy and be like, a great session, love you, bye, what a great cry I had. No, I need to implement what I have learned to keep rising to be my best self and who God created me to be. I want to step into her. I want to be her. Because I am her. I just need to like shuffle through the crap and find her, dust her off, and bring her up, rise her up. Yeah, I don't know. That was a whole lot of like hodgepodge. Next time, maybe this will just be part 1 because I've learned so I really should look through my notes. So that's my bad. Next time I'll be a little bit more organized. But until next time, bye guys. Love you.